Tonight you are drifting through the calm story of the abandoned cliff dwellings of Mesa Verde, where ancient stone walls rest quietly inside the sheltering arms of a canyon, and the air carries the soft, warm smell of dry earth cooling at the end of the day. You are moving slowly toward that canyon now, just as the light begins to soften and the sky turns the color of pale copper above the mesa. Let your body settle where it is. Feel the weight of your shoulders easing down. Feel the warmth of wherever you are resting spreading gently beneath you. There is nowhere to go tonight. There is nothing you need to remember or plan or hold. You can let all of it go slowly, like breath leaving your body on a long, quiet exhale. Your eyes are already growing a little heavy. That is a kind and natural thing. Let them be heavy. Let them rest. Take one slow breath in through your nose, feeling your chest and belly rise with it, and then let it out through your mouth, gently, without any effort at all. And again, slow and easy. The breath comes on its own. You only have to notice it, soft and steady, like a tide going in and going out on a very calm shore. Now you are walking, though it feels more like floating, across a wide and quiet mesa in the last hour before dark. The land around you is vast and open. The sky overhead is enormous, and it is shifting from the blue of afternoon into the warm amber and rose of dusk. Long shadows are beginning to stretch across the flat earth, thin and cool, reaching eastward across the dry grasses and the pale stone. The ground beneath your feet is hard-packed and smooth, worn by ancient winds and ancient rains. Small sage plants grow here and there, low and silver green, and when the evening breeze passes over them, it carries their soft, resinous scent to you. You breathe it in without thinking. It is a clean and grounding smell, like something the earth made just to soothe you. You are moving toward the edge of the canyon. You know it is there, somewhere ahead of you, though from here the land simply looks like it continues on forever. The mesa is flat and quiet and still. A single bird crosses the sky far above, moving slowly, without any hurry at all, and then, gradually, the ground ahead of you begins to change. The earth slopes gently downward. The horizon, which had been a clean and simple line, begins to soften and deepen. You understand that you are drawing close to the rim. You walk slowly. There is no reason to rush. The evening is wide and unhurried around you, and the air is beginning to cool in the way that canyon air does, rising up from the depths below in soft, invisible currents. It touches your face first, that coolness, then your arms, your hands. It is a relief after the warmth of the afternoon, and you feel your body respond to it the way a tired person responds to shade. You stop a few feet from the edge and look out, and what you see is so quiet and so large that it settles something inside you. The canyon opens below you, and it is deep, very deep, carved by patient water over more years than the mind can easily hold. The walls are layered in colors, pale cream and dusty rose, and a deep burnished orange that glows now in the last of the slanted light. The shadows are beginning to pool at the bottom, filling the canyon floor with a soft and violet darkness, rising slowly up the walls the way water fills a vessel, unhurried and inevitable. The stone is ancient. You can feel the age of it even from where you stand, looking down. These walls were here long before the people came to live inside them, and they will be here long after everything you know has grown quiet and still. There is something deeply restful in that thought. The stone is not waiting for anything. It simply is, patient and solid and warm from the long day of sun, radiating that warmth slowly back into the cooling air. You let your eyes travel along the canyon walls, and then there, tucked beneath a great curved overhang of rock, you see them, the dwellings. They are small from here, small and pale, the color of the cliff itself, as though the canyon made them as naturally as it made its own stone shelves and ledges. They nestle together under the overhang like something resting, like something that has been resting for a very long time and does not mind. The soft dusk light falls gently across them. It catches the rounded edges of the small stone walls and turns them gold for a moment, then lets them fade back into shadow. Windows, small and square, face the open air of the canyon. Doorways no taller than a standing child open onto narrow ledges of rock. Everything is quiet. Everything is still. Long ago, the people who built these rooms moved through them at just this hour, the hour of cooling and settling and firelight beginning. They carried water and dried corn. They watched this same sky shifting through its colors above the canyon rim. They breathed this same sage-scented air. And then, in time, they moved on, and the rooms grew quiet, and the canyon held them gently in its walls. The way it holds them still, you watch the shadows continue to pool and deepen below you. The light on the canyon walls is fading very softly now, the orange fading to rose, the rose fading to a pale and luminous gray. The dwellings are growing quieter still, settling into the dusk the way all old things settle, with a kind of ease that only comes from having rested for a very long time. The evening air moves around you, cool and soft. Your shoulders are heavy and easy. Your breath is slow. The canyon holds its quiet the way deep water holds its stillness, all the way down. You are not going anywhere tonight. You are here at the rim of this ancient and patient place, and the stone is warm beneath the cooling air, and the shadows are gentle, and the small pale rooms beneath the overhang are resting, and so are you. Let your eyes close a little more. Let the image of the canyon settle and soften behind them. The rose light, the shadow pooling, the old stone walls tucked beneath their shelf of rock. You are safe and warm and completely still. The mesa holds you. The evening holds you. And you are already gently beginning to drift. You can feel it in the walls themselves. A quiet record pressed into every surface. Each brick holds the shape of the hands that set it there. Hands that were patient. Hands that were practiced. Hands that knew exactly how much pressure to lean into stone without cracking what they loved. The people who built here did not hurry. Hurrying was not part of what they knew. They moved through their days the way water moves through deep rock, steadily, finding the path that was always already there. A single sandstone brick weighs about as much as a sleeping child. The builders lifted them one at a time, carrying them up along the cliff face on footholds cut so carefully into the rock that they feel almost gentle beneath your feet. You imagine a pair of hands, broad and warm, dusted pale, with the fine powder that comes off freshly shaped stone. The fingers are sure. The wrists are easy. There is no strain in this imagining, only steadiness, only the soft repetition of work that has been done so many times. It has become something close to rest. They quarried the sandstone nearby, reading the rock the way you might read a river, watching for the natural lines where layers parted willingly. A good stone came away clean. It made a low, soft sound, like a breath released. The builders shaped each one with a hammerstone, smoothing the faces, truing the edges, feeling for the balance that would let it sit well against its neighbor. Stone teaching stone how to be still together. The mortar they pressed between each course was made from clay, water, and ash, and it dried slowly under the sun that came in bright and brief along the cliffs overhang each afternoon. You notice the way those mortar lines have rounded at their edges over the centuries, the way weathering softened every sharp intention into something that looks almost organic now, almost grown rather than built. A wall made by hands has become, across 800 years, a wall made by time, and you cannot quite tell where one ends and the other begins. Inside these rooms, the ceilings are low and close. You do not bump your head. You simply find yourself naturally smaller, naturally naturally quieter, naturally more aware of the breath in your chest. The rooms were made for a life lived near the ground. Sleeping here would have meant curling close to the earth, feeling its stored warmth rise up through woven mats, through the soft accumulation of blankets made from strips of rabbit fur twisted together in long spirals. That warmth was ordinary to them. It is extraordinary to you now, imagining it, letting your own body grow heavy and warm in the same easy way. Soot marks darken the ceilings in some chambers, soft black blooms left by cooking fires and lamps burning juniper oil. They are not marks of damage. They are marks of life, of winter evenings, of food being prepared, of small children sitting close to the heat, of stories told in voices low enough not to disturb those already sleeping in the next room. Sound traveled easily here. Privacy was a kind of softness, a mutual agreement to be gentle with one another's rest. There were kivas, too, round and sunk below the level of the plaza floors, entered from above by ladder, lit from within by a small fire kept steady through a carefully placed ventilation shaft. The kiva's walls were plastered smooth and sometimes painted, bands of red and white running at shoulder height, simple and clean. Sitting inside a kiva, even now, in imagination, you feel a particular quality of enclosure, not confinement, but held, cradled by curved walls on every side, the low ceiling pressing warmth down gently, the round floor rising to meet you. The people who gathered in those spaces knew each other completely. A community living on a cliff ledge perhaps 30 feet wide and several hundred feet long grows deeply familiar with every neighbor's footstep, every neighbor's cough in the night, every baby's cry, and every old person's quiet shuffling toward morning. That intimacy was not always easy, but it made for a kind of attentiveness to one another that most of us can only imagine now. A constant low-grade tenderness born from shared space and shared necessity. Water came from seeps in the cliff face, slow trickles that gathered in pockets carved to collect them. Corn was stored in sealed rooms against the long winters, each clay-sealed jar a kind of promise made to the future, a note left by summer for the cold months ahead. The builders planned across seasons, across years, across generations, shaping a place not for themselves alone, but for the children and grandchildren who would sleep in these same rooms, touch these same walls, watch the same slice of sky brighten each morning through the same low doorways. Those doorways are small, trapezoidal, wider at the base than the top, and you have to bow your head slightly to pass through them. It is an unconscious gesture of humility, an acknowledgement of threshold, of crossing from one space into another. You do it without thinking. Your body already knows what the gesture means. There is something very old in the bowing of a head at a doorway, something the body remembers, even when the mind has moved on to other things. You rest now in one of these rooms in your imagination. The walls close and steady on every side. The plaster cool beneath your fingertips if you reach out and touch it. The stone absorbs the heat of the day and releases it slowly through the night. A long, quiet exhale that never quite ends. Outside, the cliff swallows gather in the last of the light and grow still. The canyon wrens settle somewhere deep in the rock. The sky above the rim turns from pale gold to a blue, so deep it has no name in the language of daylight. You are held here as surely as those bricks are held, fitted into place by forces gentle and enormous at once, by the drift of sleep coming down over you like warm dust settling after a long day. The hands that built this place knew what it meant to be tired in a good way, tired all the way through, heavy with the satisfaction of work done carefully, work done with love for the material and love for the people who would come after. Your breathing has grown slower without your noticing. The walls hold, the mortar holds. 8 centuries have held, and they will hold a little longer still, quiet and patient, while you drift down into the warm dark that waits beneath every dream. Below the open terraces, below the worn thresholds and the carefully mortared walls, there are rooms that descend still deeper into the mesa. You drift toward them now, drawn by something quieter than curiosity, something more like the gentle pull of sleep itself. Steps carved from pale stone lead you down, one by one, into the earth. Each step is smooth from centuries of feet that came before yours, worn into a shallow curve, as soft and welcoming as a cupped palm. This is the kiva. It opens beneath you like a held breath finally released. The walls curve in a perfect circle, and that roundness is not accidental. Round walls hold warmth more evenly, hold sound more gently, hold a gathered group in something resembling an embrace. The builders understood this without needing to name it. They shaped these rooms from the earth itself, from the same red and amber stone that cups the mesa from below. And so the kiva feels less like a constructed place than a place that was always waiting to be found. The coolness here does not bite. It settles against your skin the way shadows settle, softly, with no sharp edge. Above you, through the circular opening in the roof, a patch of darkening sky holds the last faint warmth of late afternoon. But down here, the temperature barely changes between seasons. The mesa breathes slowly, and its slow breath keeps this chamber still, keeps it even, keeps it resting at a depth where neither midsummer heat nor midwinter frost can fully reach. You settle onto the low bench that runs around the inside of the wall. It is cut from the same stone as everything else here, smoothed by long use into something almost soft. Your shoulders ease. Your back finds its natural curve. The ceiling above you is low enough that the room feels held, enclosed, private in a way that does not feel confining, but instead feels like being gently wrapped in something old and sure. At the center of the floor, there is a shallow fire pit, just a small depression lined with flat stones, darkened by countless fires. No flame burns in it now, but the stone holds a memory of warmth, and if you let your eyes rest there, you can almost sense the glow that once lived in that space. Families gathered here in the evening hours. Firelight moved across curved walls, the way water moves across river stones, rippling, shifting, never the same from one breath to the next. There is a small hole in the floor, set just beside the fire pit. It is called a sipapu, and it was understood as a point of connection to what lay beneath the world. Not a frightening beneath, not a hollow or a dark unknown, but something ancestral and warm, a seam between the living and everything that had always been. The builders placed it there with great care, a quiet marker, a small reminder that the ground beneath ordinary life holds more than it shows. Your eyes move slowly around the curved wall. Old plaster still clings to sections of the stone, and its surface holds traces of color, faint reddish lines, the ghost of a geometric pattern that was once vivid and precise. Someone sat in this very room and painted those lines with a brush made from yucca fibers, dipping it into pigment ground from the earth outside. That painter's hands were steady and unhurried. The lines they drew were not rushed. They were made in the same spirit that built the whole dwelling. One careful gesture laid alongside another until something whole and beautiful emerged. The coolness of the kiva is particular. It does not come from dampness. It comes from depth, from the way the mesa stores its own temperature, the way a deep well stores its water. You feel it along the backs of your arms, at the nape of your neck. It is pleasant the way clean linen is pleasant, the way the shaded side of a stone is pleasant on a warm afternoon. Your body welcomes it. Your thoughts begin to thin and soften like mist rising off still water before dawn. In the evenings long past, someone would have placed wood carefully into that central pit, dry juniper cut from the mesa rim. The first smoke would have risen slowly, curling upward through the roof opening, carrying with it the scent of resin and cedar. Firelight would have filled the curved room with amber and shadow in equal measure. Voices would have spoken in low tones. Children would have grown heavy-lidded against their mother's shoulders. The fire would have dimmed, fed less and less until only coals remained, breathing faint red, then cooling, then going dark. You let yourself imagine that slow fading, each coal growing dimmer than the one before, each small glow subsiding into the quiet dark, one by one, until the room held only the steady cool of the mesa and the soft sound of people resting. That rhythm, that gradual dimming, is not loss. It is completion. A thing settling into its own rest after it has given everything it had to give. The bench beneath you is solid and enduring. The walls around you have held their shape through centuries of wind and snow above, through the long, slow patience of the earth below. Nothing here is fragile. Nothing here is hurrying. The kiva exists at a pace that has nothing to do with clocks or seasons, a pace that is simply the pace of stone becoming more itself over a very long time. Your breath slows to match it. The cool air moves through the room in a gentle, barely perceptible current, and it carries the faint mineral scent of old rock, of clay, of something rooted and ancient that has no name you need to find right now. The circular wall holds you in its gentle geometry. The sky visible through the roof opening has deepened to a blue so dark it is nearly indigo, and one star has appeared there, steady and unhurried, looking down into this small round room just as it looked down 800 years ago. You are held by the same earth, beneath the same sky. The kiva has been waiting a long time, and it does not mind waiting longer. It is patient the way deep places are patient, the way sleep is patient, returning night after night with no urgency, no demand, only this open and enduring quiet, settling over you like dust settling onto pale stone, slow, soft, and entirely still. The corn came first, long before memory had a name for itself. Someone carried it up the mesa in a woven bag. Seeds nestled together like small, smooth promises, wrapped in a dry husk, warming against a human back. You can almost feel the weight of that bag, light but deliberate, rising with each step along the switchback trail. The piñon trees leaning in slow arcs overhead. The fields were small and patient. Rows pressed into shallow soil above the cliff edge, catching what rain arrived with announcement. Farmers read the sky the way a reader moves quietly through a favorite page, not rushing, simply receiving. A cloud would gather above the red rock horizon, and something in the chest would lift, not with urgency, but with the gentle certainty that everything needed was already on its way. You imagine the seeds going into the earth, one by one, pressed down with a thumb, or a planting stick worn smooth from seasons of use. The soil received each one without ceremony. Time moved differently here, measured not in hours, but in the soft interval between planting and the first pale thread of green uncurling from the red dirt. There was no need to watch too closely. The earth knew what to do with a seed. When the corn grew tall and the ears set heavy, the harvest was gathered by hand, row by slow row. Ears were twisted free and piled into carrying baskets, and the sound of corn moving against corn was dry and soft, like rain heard from inside a room. Stalks were left to lean and dry in the afternoon light, bleaching slowly from gold to the color of old paper, and the mesa grew quieter as the season turned inward. The dried ears were brought below, down through the narrow passage into the stone chambers where the air was cooler and steadier. Corn was stacked carefully, ear over ear, color sorted by purpose. Blue corn, white corn, yellow corn, each holding its own particular patience. They sat in the dark of the storage rooms like a library. No one needed to read aloud. Their presence was enough. The weight of them in the hand was satisfying, solid, real, a thing earned through months of attentiveness. You might linger on that image for a moment. A storage room in the late season, corn stacked floor to near ceiling, the smell of dry husks and cool dust, light coming in thin and amber through a small T-shaped doorway. Someone sits just inside the threshold, sorting seeds for next year's planting. Cracked kernels set aside, firm ones pressed into a soft pouch. Each seed is examined briefly, then kept or released. A gesture so familiar it requires no thought, just the easy motion of hands that have done this many times before. Seeds carry the whole year forward. They hold summer inside them, compressed and still. A dried kernel of blue corn is not an empty thing. It is a season folded down to its smallest form, waiting for warmth and moisture to open it again. Held in the palm, it weighs almost nothing. Set in the dark earth, it begins a conversation that lasts all season long. Life on the mesa moved in rounds. Planting gave way to tending, tending to harvesting, harvesting to storing, storing to waiting, waiting gave way to planting again. There was no fixed beginning and no true end, just the smooth turning of one season inside the next, like a river that bends and bends without ever stopping, without ever quite repeating itself. In the quietest part of summer, when the corn stood chest high and the beans wound their vines around each stalk, the mesa would hold a particular stillness. Not silence, but a layered hush. Wind moving through corn silk, a hawk tilting above the mesa rim, riding warm air without effort. Insects calling from the brush below, steady and even, like a sound the earth made simply to fill itself. You can rest inside that hush. There is nothing sharp in it, nothing that asks anything of you. Children moved between the rows, small and quick, familiar with every turning of the path. An elder sat in the shade of a juniper, mending a sandal, or turning a clay pot slowly to check its drying walls for any fine crack that had not been there before. Another person carried water up from the seep below, the jar balanced at the hip, one hand steadying it as each step found the familiar footing of the trail. Every motion was practiced. Every motion was part of a rhythm so long established, it needed no thought to sustain it. There was grinding, too, each morning, stone on stone, the dry rasp of corn becoming flour. Women worked at the grinding slabs together, their movements falling into an easy common pace, not synchronized by effort, but by long habit. The sound drifted outward into the morning air, steady and low, grounding the day before it had truly begun. Flour gathered in soft, pale drifts at the edge of the stone, and the smell of it was warm, faintly sweet, the smell of everything that would become a meal. Even the nights had their own quiet rhythm here. After the sun left the mesa and the stone released its stored warmth slowly into the cooling air, the households gathered. Food was prepared and shared with the easy motion of those who had done this together for years. The fire burned low after the meal, not urgently, just fading to orange coals, and a breath of smoke rising straight upward in the still air. Voices softened. The children settled. Someone covered them gently and remained sitting a while, watching the coals breathe and dim. You find yourself drifting alongside all of this, carried on the same slow current that carried seeds from hand to earth, from earth to stalk, from stalk to ear, from ear to storage room, from storage room back into a hand preparing for another planting. There is a deep comfort in that circularity. Nothing is lost in it. Everything returns in its own time, changed and whole. The mesa holds all of this still, folded into its rock and dust, empty rooms are not empty. They are full of the accumulated quiet of seasons stacked on seasons, each one pressing gently down on the one before, soft as snow, steady as the red rock itself. You settle into that steadiness now. You let it support you from below, sure and unhurried, the way the mesa has always held what was placed upon it, carefully and without effort through every season that has come and turned and come again. Something shifted in those years, gently and without announcement. You sense it now among the silent rooms where dust settles with the same patience it always has. The mesa held its breath. The rains came less often, not in one dramatic season, but across many seasons, each one a little drier than the one before. That truth arrived the way drought always comes, not in a single cloudless morning, but in a long succession of them, each ordinary, each quiet, each asking nothing and giving less. The soil remembered what the sky had forgotten. You can feel that in the stillness here. The terraced garden plots above the stone rooms grew thinner in their yield. The bean plants stood shorter. The corn ears went smaller, then smaller still. No one needed to announce this. Everyone already knew it in their hands, in the feel of the ground when they turned it, in the heft of each autumn harvest laid out to dry. And yet, nothing happened quickly. There was no single morning when someone looked out over the plateau and decided everything would change. Instead, there were small decisions made in ordinary moments over many years. A family gathers its clay vessels. A weaver rolls her best blankets and tucks them carefully. Children carry bundles without fully understanding what the carrying means. And so a leaving begins, not with ceremony, but with one quiet footstep, then another, then many more, spread across seasons and years, unhurried as the turning of the mesa itself. You drift with them now, following that slow departure as smoke follows an open window. The trails leading south and east had always existed. Generations of feet had worn them smooth long before this season of going. What changed was only the direction of intention. Travelers who once returned now simply continued onward. They moved toward river valleys where water still ran faithful, toward lowlands where the soil held moisture deep beneath its surface, toward communities of distant kin who spoke in familiar patterns and knew the same songs. The rooms they left behind were not abandoned in haste. You notice that, looking at them now in your mind's eye. Doorways were sealed with careful masonry, not crumbling but deliberately closed, as though someone expected to return, or simply wanted to leave things in order. Roof beams were sometimes removed and carried along, because wood was precious on an open plain, because what you had shaped with labor you carried when you could. Floors were swept. Hearths were cold and clean. There is a quiet dignity in that tidiness, a respect for the space itself, a careful goodbye offered in the form of order. A few belongings remained, and that is one of the softer mysteries you can hold tonight. A corrugated pot, dark with old use, set in a corner as if waiting. A sandal woven from yucca fiber, still holding its shape after centuries. Whether these were left deliberately or simply forgotten in a distracted moment, no one can say for certain. But they sit there still, carrying no urgency. They have been at rest for longer than most things you have ever known, and they seem entirely comfortable with that. The mesa did not mourn. Stone does not grieve. The juniper trees kept growing slowly along the upper rim. Ravens called across the open air, indifferent and free. Mule deer moved through the brush in the early mornings, following their own unhurried calendars. The wind continued its old conversation with the cliff faces, running its fingers along the rock in the same long strokes it always had. Nature absorbed the leaving without commentary, the way it absorbs everything, with patience so deep it registers nothing as loss, and those who left carried everything that truly mattered. They carried the knowledge of how to read a sky before rain, how to read the lean of a cornstalk, how to coil a pot from the base upward so it would not crack in the firing. They carried the songs that had been sung in those round rooms below ground, passed from elder to child in low and certain voices. They carried the prayers offered at dawn with palms turned upward, the stories that explained what the stars were doing and why the seasons turned as they did. All of that moved south with them, folded into memory and breath, traveling invisibly inside those who walked. You follow them at this gentle distance, not chasing, only drifting along behind. The journey south would have taken days, then more days. Camp made at dusk beside a dry wash. Embers cupped carefully through the night against the wind. Children asleep on rolled blankets beneath a sky so full of stars it seemed almost too generous, almost too bright to be real. And in the morning, walking again, steady and patient, southward through sage and juniper, toward the sound of water running somewhere ahead, easy and cool over stone, they arrived eventually somewhere new. They built again. Their hands found new stone and shaped it with the same sureness they had always carried. New kivas went down into new earth, round and dark, and waiting for firelight. New plazas filled with the ordinary sounds of community, with laughter and murmured conversation, and the clatter of daily work continuing on. The tradition did not end at Mesa Verde. It simply moved, as a river moves when its old channel silts over, finding new ground to follow, carrying the same water somewhere else, somewhere the soil was ready for it. You rest now in that understanding. Nothing here was lost in the way that word usually feels, sudden and irreversible. What happened here was more like a long exhalation, a breath let go without grief, a chapter whose last sentence simply ended and whose story continued elsewhere, in another set of hands, under another open sky. The cliff rooms remain in their alcoves, cradled by sandstone that has held them through every season since. Swallows nest in the high crevices, tending their small lives with quiet industry. Lichen spreads its slow rust across the upper walls, patient as anything you have ever imagined. And the silence here is not an empty silence. It is full, in the quietest possible sense, with everything that once moved through it, now stilled into something very much like rest. You are resting too. The stone is warm beneath an ancient sun. The air is still and clean, and carries the faint sweetness of juniper on its breath. Somewhere far below, a stream moves softly over its smooth bed, unhurried and content. You let the mesa hold you for a moment, as it has held so much, for so long, with such easy and uncomplaining grace. The night settles here in layers. First, there is the soft dark that gathers against the cliff face, pooling behind each low doorway, spreading across every smooth floor. Then there is the deeper dark that comes later, when the last ridge of violet has faded from the western sky, and the stars begin their slow emergence, one by one, until the whole mesa blazes quietly above you. You watch them appear, unhurried, generous, each one finding its place in the great turning dome overhead. You imagine standing at the edge of all this stillness. The rooms simply waited long ago, when the last footstep faded from the path below. And they have been waiting ever since, patient and unhurried, held together by something older than memory. Starlight is a gentle visitor. It asks for nothing. It does not knock or linger. It simply arrives, soft and silver, and rests itself across whatever surface it finds. Tonight, it finds the lip of a low window, worn smooth by 10,000 passing seasons. It finds the floor of a small room where a sleeping mat was once unrolled each evening. It finds a corner where a pot once sat, glazed in gray and white, holding something warm. The light spreads itself so thinly, so softly, that it becomes less light and more atmosphere, a faint luminescence hovering just above the stone. The starlight does not mourn what is missing. It only illuminates what remains. And what remains is very still. Let your breath slow now. You let it follow the rhythm of this place, which is the rhythm of deep time, the long exhale of centuries. There is no hurry here. There never was, really. Even when this cliff hummed with morning sounds and the smell of wood smoke and the soft percussion of stone on stone, even then, the mesa moved at its own unhurried pace. The sun came up. The sun went down. The seasons tilted and returned, again and again, without rushing. Without asking anything of anyone, the mesa simply continued. Season followed season. Centuries settled quietly upon each other, unhurried, uncounted. Now the rooms hold only air, cool, dry, ancient air that has been resting undisturbed through summer after summer, through winter after winter, through hundreds of years of quiet. You breathe it in and feel how still it is, how settled and complete. Silence here is not an absence. It is a presence, something that has been building for a very long time, layer by quiet layer, the way sediment gathers at the bottom of still water. Each year that passed without footsteps added another thin layer. Each winter that swept through without voices added another. Now the silence is thick and nourishing, the kind that does not press or insist, but simply holds everything within it, the way a cupped hand holds water gently, without spilling. Each empty doorway frames a small rectangle of sky. The stars shift through it so slowly you would not notice unless you watched for a very long time, which is what this place has done. It has watched. It has held still and let the sky turn overhead, and it has asked for nothing in return. This is its practice now, watching, waiting, receiving what the sky offers and letting it pass. There is a small room at the back of the dwelling, deeper in the cliff, where no starlight reaches tonight. It is entirely dark in there and entirely calm. The walls have absorbed so many seasons that they hold a faint warmth even now, a warmth gathered over lifetimes and stored with great care. You picture that room and feel the warmth of it spreading through you, moving up through your limbs, settling into your shoulders, loosening the last small tensions you were carrying without knowing it. There is nothing to hold anymore. Everything can set itself down. Your body grows pleasantly heavy now, not burdened, only settled, way old stone settles into a hillside, finding its rest after a long time in the sun. You are sinking into quiet the way a room sinks into silence when the last voice has gone soft. Outside, a nighthawk passes without a sound. Its wings cut the cool air above the mesa, and it is gone before you can fully hold the image of it. The stars continue their slow wheel. Orion tilts toward the west. The Pleiades drift. Somewhere below the rim, a cricket offers its one small word and then stops. The dwelling breathes along with you now. Long in, long out. The mortar between the stones holds firm. The wooden beams, ancient and silver gray, rest in their notches exactly as they were placed centuries ago. Hands set each beam with great care. Hands smoothed the plaster on each wall. And now the hands are gone, and the walls remain, and they are holding everything very gently. The way you are being held right now, in this soft and darkened moment. You do not need to go anywhere. You do not need to remember anything. There is only this, the slow turning of stars above old rooms, the quiet that has been here longer than memory, and will be here long after any thought you might have wished to think tonight. This is rest without edges. You have arrived at the soft center of it. Your breath comes more slowly now. Each inhale is a little softer than the one before. Each exhale settles you a little deeper into the warmth beneath you. You are drifting, the way dust drifts in a shaft of morning light, not falling, only floating, moving so gently that moving and stillness become the same thing. Mesa holds you. The night holds you. The long, unhurried dark holds you with the same patience it has held these rooms for hundreds of years, asking nothing, expecting nothing, simply present and wide and soft. It will hold you through until morning, through every dream, through all the deep and gentle hours that remain. A star somewhere at the edge of your awareness dissolves into the dark. Another takes its place without ceremony. The air does not stir. The walls do not move. The small, ancient rooms rest on in their cliff, settled and serene, and you are resting too now, drifting into the same deep quiet, the same long stillness, the same wordless and unhurried dark. There is nothing more to see. There is nothing more to hear. There is only the soft dark and the far stars turning above it, and the deep, unhurried peace of a place that has rested for a very long time. You rest with it now. You are still.